welcome to episode 27 of the What Shara Made podcast. I hope you've been keeping well and getting lots of crafty things done, whatever that may be. I hope it's been relaxing, and I hope the weather's been kind to you. I know some of my friends in the Northern Hemisphere aren't having the best weather at the moment. I hope it's not dangerous for you. That's definitely something I want. Now I've got a few things to show you. One FO, one half-finished object, and a couple of whips, and even a book review. So, I might start with my whips. Now my first whip hasn't really grown a lot since the last time I showed you. It's grown a tiny bit, but not a lot. And this is my sock that I am making from a pattern from my head. I'll try and get it up a little closer so you can see the pattern. And I think the last time I spoke to you I just maybe turned the heel, so I've done a little bit in the foot. So I've done a little bit in the foot, and I'm really looking forward to finishing these because I want to wear them. They're so pretty. And the beautiful yarn that I'm using is Butze, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, from Little Dipper Yarns, which is an Australian indie dyer, and she has the most beautiful yarns. And somehow, I don't know how this happened, but at the Australian Sheep and Wool Show about a month ago in Bendigo, Little Dipper Yarns was there, and I missed her. I didn't even know she was there until after the fact, when I saw all these other people showing all their amazing Little Dipper yarns, and I'm like, what? Where was she? And it turns out that I think I missed one or two of the vendor sheds somehow. I'm not really sure how that happened, but I did. But hopefully they'll be there again next year, or maybe they'll be at the Black and Coloured Sheep show in October. Fingers crossed. So that's this. Still got a bit to go. Now I started this sock for the Read Along, Knit Along in the Yarn Woman podcast, and that was a really fun knit along, and I ended up winning one of the prizes for the knit along, even though I haven't finished my sock, so that was quite generous. I'm really excited about that. I was so thrilled when I was watching the Yarn Woman podcast and my name was called as one of the winners. I let out an audible squeal and the dogs had a little panicked moment and looked at me like, what's going on, are you okay? Like, I won yarn. So that's that whip. Coming along, but a little slowly. My next whip, which is really a half-finished object. I just finished this afternoon, and I'm hoping to cast on the next one the next few hours, maybe this evening. And that is this awesome sock. Oh my god, I'm so in love with it. Have a look at it. Oh my goodness. Now the yarn that I've used for the body, the amazing self-striping yarn, was a very special gift from Hannah of the Rosehip Knits podcast. Rosehip Knits, is that what it's called, or just the Rosehip podcast? Anyway, I'll put it along here hopefully. And this colourway that Hannah has hand dyed is called Yarra Valley, which is where I live. And it's very, very special. So Hannah gave this to me when we met up in Bendigo. And I've used Knit Picks Stroll Glimmer, which is wool nylon stellina blend for the cuff, heel and toe. And I am so happy with it. I couldn't be happier. I think this is one of the coolest socks I've ever knit. And I cannot wait to be wearing them. We've got a bit of a cold snap heading our way, even though winter's about to end. So I think I've still got to get a little bit of wear out of woolly socks for now. So hopefully I will have this finished, it's pair finished, pretty soon. It was a nice quick knit, just a vanilla sock with a heel flap and gusset and just a standard toe. Nothing special about the sock pattern because I wanted the yarn to really do all the talking, and it has. How cool is that? Oh my god, I'm so in love with it. So that just needs a partner. And my next whip is a pretty long-standing whip, and it hasn't had any love for a very long time, but I need to finish it because I've got a little bit of a deadline for it now. And that is my fox paws wrap, throw, shawl, stole, I'm not really sure what it is. But it's the fox paws pattern by Zandy Peters, and it's a pretty awesome pattern. She's an amazing designer. I'm using Knit Picks palette. I can't tell you the colourways because I haven't got the tags. I can't remember, sorry. But it's pretty cool. I'm really enjoying this. I cannot wait until it is finished and I can wear it. But also, I want to enter it into our local, semi-local, agricultural show where they have a craft competition, knitting, crochet, sewing, embroidery, crafting. It's got a category. And I entered in a couple of things last year and I got a second prize ribbon, which is pretty cool. But this year, I want the blue ribbon. And I'm going to enter this in. So I need to finish it. I'm hoping to have it. I've got one full repeat on there and it has, I think it has 2 repeats in the, maybe it has 3. Anyway, I'll just keep going till I run out of yarn. But it needs to be done by, I think, the end of October. So I've got a little bit of time to work on it. I did find when I was working on this monogamously, I was getting about maybe managing to do maybe 1 colour repeat per day. Obviously I didn't spend the whole day knitting it, but it's quite taxing mentally. It's not something you can just grab and do a few rows on it and go. You have to sit down and watch the pattern and count stitches, and it's, I'm sure you can imagine, it's pretty taxing. Amazing, looks amazing, I just love it, and the pattern is just mind-blowing. And hopefully I can have it done in time to enter it into the show. Oh my god, how amazing would a whole top or skirt or something be in this? Oh, god, I love it so much. It's actually quite a fun knit as well. It's somewhat intuitive. Not so much intuitive where you could look at what's happening and then know what needs to happen next, but once you've done maybe one of the repeats, I don't know if you can see here, but I've got each repeat up along the row separated by stitch markers. Just so I found that really made it a lot easier. So once you do one of these little repeats between the stitch markers, you've usually got it set in your head and you can just go along and do the rest of them. But I still need to read every row of the pattern. I can't just sit there and work off the top of my head, which is fine, doesn't worry me at all. I really enjoy it. So that's that one, that's that whip. I've got one more whip that's sort of a bit of a design whip. I had this idea in my head for quite a while now, and I bought the yarn ages ago for this idea, and the idea sort of came from the yarn. Whoops, I'm unraveling some of it. It's probably not going to look like much at this stage, but it's going to be some little fingerless mitts, and they're crocheted. And you can see quite an interesting texture on there. I'm not really entirely sure what this stitch pattern is called. Maybe waves or something of that nature. It involves lots of half trebles, or if you're in the US, half DCs, and slip stitches, alternating each row. And it looks quite different on the back. It still looks beautiful, but quite different. So got that, and it's going to go, if you can imagine, like that around my hand, but it's going to have a thumb gusset in there. I'm not too keen on fingerless mitts that just have a gap for your thumb to poke out. My thumbs do give me a little bit of trouble, my thumb joints, so I do like to keep that part of my hand nice and warm. If it's cold enough to be wearing mitts or gloves or something like that, I want my thumb to be nice and warm. So that is that whip. Hopefully it'll look a little more recognisable as a fingerless mitt in the next episode. It actually looks pretty cool that way as well. Interesting, but anyway, it's going to go long ways on my hand, like so. I don't know if that's really useful. And I can't remember the name of the yarn that I'm using. Reva, something Reva, R-A-V-A. I'll try and find that out so I can put it in the show notes because it's gorgeous. It is absolutely magnificent. It's really springy. It's an S on S twist, so it's got that really springy feel to it, but it's also got excellent stitch definition. I'm sure it would look beautiful in knitting as it does in crochet. So that's that little piece. And now I might move on to my one and only FO. Actually, I have a second FO, but I gave it to someone because it was made for them for a birthday present. And maybe I might put a photo of it in here. Right here somewhere. So hopefully I just added a photo in there of Henrietta's little jumper that I made her little sweater. It's a design I've been working on for maybe about a year, actually, since Henrietta's last birthday. Her first birthday was her second birthday on the weekend just past, and it's coming along nicely. I don't know why it's taken me so long because it really shouldn't have. It's a really intuitive, easy, highly customizable pattern, and according to my calculations it should go from newborn to large adult, the sizing. So that was a really fun, really quick knit, and I'm actually going to make myself one soon just to test that it's all good before I give it to my test knitters to make sure that it works. A little bit of tea time there. I've got another FO that I actually have present right here, and this is something that I've been working on. I might have started it 2 years ago. I'm not entirely sure. It's been going for a while, and you'll see why. This was a major stash busting exercise, and I was doing a bit of an audit of my yarn about 2 years ago, and I found that I had an abundance of variegated DK weight pure wool yarn, and I'm really not a huge fan of variegated yarns, particularly in a DK weight. I've just got no use for them. I don't know why I have so much, but I don't anymore. I don't have so much anymore because I finished this massive stash busting project, which is a crochet project. Let me see. It's a corner to corner crochet blanket. I started at this corner. So I don't know if you're familiar with a corner to corner crochet blanket, but it starts at one point and each row it grows. And you go until it's as big as you want it along one edge, and then you start decreasing. And so instead of increasing every row, you start decreasing every row, and eventually you end up with a square or a rectangle. I've gone for a slight rectangle here with mine, but it started there and it grew and grew and grew and grew and grew. It's pretty big. I've been wrapping myself up in it because I finished it this morning and it's about maybe it's about 145 centimetres one way and about 140 centimetres on the other way, and it weighs just over a kilo, and I literally have a ball about that big of the very last piece of variegated DK weight pure wool yarn, and that is it. I now have no more variegated yarn in my stash, which is great. I've made room in my stash, and hopefully I won't buy any more variegated DK weight yarn, otherwise I'm going to have to start another one of these. I'm so happy to have it finished, and I realise it's a bit ugly. That's okay. It wasn't meant to be a beautiful piece. It's pretty it's a bit wild, isn't it? All those colours together, but I like it anyway. Really happy to have it finished, like I said, and it is finished just in time for me to enter it into the Knit Girl Stash Dash, and this added another 2,096 metres to my stash dash, so that's fantastic, and I think that might push me over the 10,000 mark. So I've knitted and crocheted 10 kilometres of yarn since the 27th of May, which is brilliant. Well, actually, I was maybe about a third of the way through this when I picked it up again to finish it for Stash Dash. So not quite all of that was done during Stash Dash, but that's okay. It doesn't have to be. That's part of the rules of Stash Dash. You can enter whips. Well, sorry, you can use whips and you can enter them if they become an FO. Now, my next, that's all my whips and half finished and finished objects. My next thing is some acquisitions. Now, I did say to myself recently, after Bendigo, I needed to put myself on a pretty strict yarn diet, and it's not going well. No, it's going poorly. So I tried to break it down into smaller increments, and I said to myself, go for a whole fortnight without buying yarn, and if you can do that, great, and then try and go for a month without buying yarn, and so on and so forth. Well, I got about 7 days into that fortnight of not buying yarn, and then I stumbled across a handmade market that I wasn't expecting to go to, and someone there was selling really beautiful yarn, and I had to get it. I picked it up and I looked at it and I thought it's really beautiful, but I'm not buying yarn. And I actually left the market, walked about 20 metres down the street, and I thought, this is silly. And I turned around and went back and I bought it. So here's the beautiful yarn that I was unable to resist. Isn't that a gorgeous, gorgeous colour? And that is from, look, you can see the details there. And it's from Rexall Yarns and Fibre. And there's the details there. So beautiful. I've got a vague idea of what I want to do with it, and it's shawl based. I thought a beautiful silk shawl in that colour would be quite glamorous. So we'll see how we go. And then I had another acquisition, but I didn't buy this, so it doesn't really count as breaking a yarn diet, right? This one here was a present from my sister, and her little boy had been on a holiday in Tasmania, which is an island just off the mainland of Australia on the southeast corner, just below the southeast corner of Australia, just below my state. And it happens to be the state, Tasmania, is the state where Hannah from Rosehip Knits lives. But my sister was in Hobart, and while she was there with her little boy, I was at her place, dog sitting her two beautiful dogs. And as a thank you, she brought me back some yarn, and she got it from the Spindle Tree. You can see the information there. Hopefully that's focusing. I haven't got my glasses on, so I can't tell if it's focused or not. It is 70% wool, 30% nylon, and there's no other specifications. That's all the information. So it's there, and it's a beautiful tonal grey. I absolutely love it. Oh, I wish it was already knit into socks and I was wearing them right now. It is a very grey, wet, wintry day here. It's presently pouring with rain outside. I don't know if you can hear it or not, but I'm looking out at the big windows here, and it's really dark outside even though it's only mid-afternoon, and it's pouring with rain. It is freezing. And I can see the blossoms on the trees out there all getting blown away by the wind. Yesterday it was very warm, like it was in the low 20s here, and it was blue skies, sunny, absolutely beautiful. Low 20s Celsius, I wouldn't have a clue what that is Fahrenheit, sorry. And it was so nice just not to be freezing. And this morning it was still quite mild. It wasn't too bad at all, but probably about 2 hours ago this cold front moved in, and we're in for a bit of a cold snap apparently, so that's perfect knitting weather according to me. So this yarn really matches the weather outside today. And I was looking for it before, my big stash busting blanket. This is how much variegated yarn I have left from my well over a kilo of variegated scraps. So that's good. I'm pretty pleased with that. I don't know what I'll do with that. I don't know. My next thing is an acquisition as well, but it's not, part of it's yarny. I was lucky enough to win a prize in a knit along that was hosted by the lovely Laurie of the Intuit Knits podcast, and she made the most magnificent project bag. Check it out. Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. I couldn't have asked for a more ideal project bag for me. It is, bees. You know how much I love bees. So this was so perfect. I was so excited when I won. And it's got this amazing little zipper pull on it. It's a bee. But it doesn't stop there. There's also this amazing hand-dyed yarn. It is so beautiful. It's from Dragon Strings, and they appear to be a Canadian dyer. Doesn't have any information about what the actual yarn is, but I'm guessing it's a silk yarn and it feels like a wool nylon blend. But you can correct me on that, Laurie or Dragon Strings. And that's the information there. So, that's really cool. Oh my god, how amazing is it? I love it. It's got all these, like, it's actually, in the light on the screen, it's coming up a lot more green. It's actually much more of a honey colour. You can see those little variations in there, so just imagine this but more like hay or honey. So beautiful. And speaking of honey, I haven't unwrapped them. Oh look, here we go, I can sneak one out here. But Laurie made me some beeswax candles. She made them. That is so cool. Oh, I wish you could smell these because they are heavenly. Isn't that amazing? How cool is that? Oh my gosh, so excited about that. And there were also some other little treats in the bag, but I'll keep those to myself. And I've actually been keeping the candles in the bag with the yarn because it smells so beautiful, and it's the smell of the beeswax candles is imparting itself onto the yarn, and it's beautiful. So that is my lucky acquisition. Oh my gosh, oh, I love it so much, Laurie. Thank you so much. Now, moving right along, I've got a little book review, and I don't know that I've ever done a book review before on the podcast, but this book is so fabulous that I couldn't resist doing a book review. Now, the book is Knitting All Around Stitch Dictionary by Wendy Bernard. And obviously whenever I see the name Bernard, I automatically think of black books. If you haven't watched the series of black books, do yourself a favour and find it online. It is probably the funniest TV show I can think of. It's the best. Anyway, back to the book. It's a stitch dictionary, but it's a stitch dictionary with a bit of a difference. So, as the name suggests, knitting all around, it's got, let me just get into it. So, what it has is, you've got the pictures of these here, and I'm not going to show you the whole thing because it is a copyrighted book and I don't know how to do this. But anyway, what it has, you've got pictures of each stitch swatch, but it gives you instructions on how to work each stitch flat or in the round, and some of them where the facing is different, it's got it how to work it bottom up or top down, flat and in the round. That is so cool. So you can apply these stitches to anything really, as long as you can fit it into the number of stitches it needs to be. You can apply them to socks, sweaters, cardigans, absolutely anything, blankets, anything you can imagine. You can apply these stitches because you've got up, down, flat and around. Brilliant. And it has chapters such as knits and purls, and then the next chapter is ribs, and it's got various ribs and how to do them up, down and in flat and in the round. So you've got various types there. And some of them are simple and some of them are more complex, which is great because sometimes you need really simple ones and sometimes you want to get crazy with particularly fancy one. And the next chapter is Twisted, Slipped and Fancy, right up my alley. And it's got some pretty interesting, honestly probably a little bit hard to see without me giving away the information. And everything's really clearly written. I've followed quite a few of the instructions so far to do various stitches, and they've all been very clear, really easy to understand, and I've done both the flat and in the round pieces, but it's also got little patterns that you can make using the stitches that are in the book as well. And it's got a few of these. They're mainly accessories. I think there might be one sweater, so you can try them out. And you can also apply different stitches in the book to these patterns, so it's pretty interesting. The next chapter is cables, so that's pretty standard for a stitch dictionary, but they're not standard cables. They've got some standard cables, of course, but then they've got some very, very interesting ones that I haven't seen in other stitch dictionaries, so that's great. You don't want to be repeating what you've already got in your stitch dictionary collection. That is really hard to say, stitch dictionary. And the next chapter is lace, and it's got lots of variations on lace, up, down, flat, in the round, once again. And the next chapter is mosaic knitting, and it's got some amazing mosaic patterns in here. Now, I've only done a little bit of mosaic knitting, but I really enjoy it. And if you're not familiar with mosaic knitting, let me just show you this one, for example. It's typically 2 colour. I have occasionally seen more than 2 colours in mosaic, but typically 2. And you only use 1 colour per row, and there's a lot of slip stitches and things like that, you know, which bring the colour from the row below to the row you're presently doing, which is why you only use 1 colour at a time, which is handy. I'm not trying to manage multiple colours at the same time, and there's a particular one that I'm trying to find. Sorry for just flicking through the book off screen. There's this one, I don't know how well it's going to show up on the screen, but this mosaic pattern of the reindeer, the stag heads, how cool is that? I love it. Really looking to incorporate that into something. And after that, there's also information about designing pieces from scratch. So it's like it gives you a little tutorial on choosing the right stitch pattern for the right item, whether it's a garment or accessories, gloves, socks, whatever. And sometimes it can be hard. You like the stitch pattern, but it does not work functionally in that piece. And that does happen sometimes, and this is a really good way of knowing which stitch patterns are going to work in certain things and how to add them into certain things, like how to add a decorative stitch pattern into socks, for example, or into a hat. And it's really cool. It's really cool. It's got a basic sock pattern in here. It's got basic shawl patterns in here as well. And how to get around adding decorative stitches into different shapes, such as shawls. This book is just brilliant. I think it costs $40 Australian. It's probably much cheaper if you're overseas. Books in Australia are pretty expensive. And it's worth every cent. It's already paid for itself. And I've only had it about 2 weeks, I'd say. So that is The Knitting All Around Stitch Dictionary by Wendy Bernard. I'm not really sure. Sorry, Wendy. Book's awesome. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. If you're in Australia, I picked mine up from Dimmix, but I have seen it online on Amazon as well. So there you go. That's my first book report, and I hope you enjoyed it. Sorry I did a lot of it off screen. I'm don't want to accidentally give away copyrighted information. So that's me. That's me done. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. It was a little bit different than usual, and it's slightly shorter than the last few I've done, so that's good. It's always so fantastic to hear from you. I absolutely love every single time anyone sends me a message. It doesn't matter what it is, even if it's just to say hello, or to ask me about something that was on the podcast. They're all beautiful. I love them all. And I try to respond to them all. And if I haven't, it's definitely not deliberate. I'm not ignoring you. It's just escaped me. So hello to everyone who is a regular viewer. And if you're a brand new viewer, I hope you enjoyed this episode and you stick around for a few more. And I'll see you all again really soon. Have a great week.